All right, I'm John Evans. This is Isaiah Rivera. I coach many of the highest jumpers in the world and have for many, many years. And he has a 50.5-inch vertical. He's the co-owner of the business, THP Strength. If you guys are looking for coaching, go to thpstrength.com. We're running a $12 sale. It's going to stop forever soon. So get a chance to potentially get in on a good thing before it's gone forever.
We're going to give you guys our brain knowledge today for free.
We're going to give you free brain juice. So I saw a post on Instagram today, and I really do my best to stay away from like strength conditioning posts because I found that they just frustrate me many times, and oftentimes I don't agree with them, or like I don't find a lot of value in them anymore. I don't learn a lot from them. There's a few people out there that I do, but I saw one, and he said, he's like, we shouldn't have strength conditioning coaches. Strength conditioning coaches are pointless. And at first I was like, dude, shut the hell up. And I was like, kept listening.
What was his lens? What was his context?
Are you ready? Are you ready for the context? I'm about to apply it. He said, because sports coaches should be strength conditioning coaches. If we took sports coaches and taught them general physical preparedness, just basic GPP, and they knew how to apply that well to their players, they would be way, way, way better.
Wow, what a hook.
That's a great hook. And I agreed. I actually very much agree, because I think being in track and field, the sports coach is the physical prep coach. Being in jumping, the sports coach is the physical prep coach. You know, and same thing. You don't think in dunking?
I disagree. I think there should be as much disconnect as possible between the S&C coach and the sports coach.
I don't even know
anything logical that the S&C coach says, the sports coach should have enough power to say no, and instead do the things that are not backed by science and research and human physiology, and instead injure as many players as possible. So
yeah, like gassers, like infinite gassers, and like
if you're like, you know, if you're a football player that your average play lasts 15 seconds, instead you should distance run like my high school coach. My high school football coach made me.
So that's the thing,
bro. Indian runs. Oh my God! Why are you making football players Indian run? What the?
We see this happen all the time.
I just got PTSD.
Yeah, we see it happen all the time. Like in track, we always said like, oh, there has to be a good relationship between the sports coach, the physio, and the high performance coach. And the high performance coach is supposed to oversee all of that, right? But in reality, it's the head coach oversees all of that, but they're not a high performance coach. So they don't know jack shit about diddly watt, and they have their speed power athletes doing, 30 or whatever 15-second sprints, and if you don't get to the end by 15 seconds, you do another one. Like I heard Nick Saban say that, and he's like a legendary sports coach, but he's not a physical prep coach. He doesn't know anything about physical prep. I mean, he knows a little bit, obviously, but like, why are you having football players do repeat 15-second sprints? Like that doesn't make any sense.
I do have I have a devil's advocate type of argument, and I'm curious about your take. What about mental toughness?
That one is grit is what I would call it. And I don't think grit is necessarily developed like by doing that stuff. I don't know if there's any research that says like, oh, this is how grit is developed. Like grit is one of the things that determines success in every single industry. It's essentially, there was a great TED talk on it. I don't know if you've heard it before, but it basically talks about how people that are able to overcome adversities over and over and over again are very, very successful. And they're oftentimes people that have overcome massive adversities in life. So for me, single parent home, bullied, whatever else, people told me I couldn't do things. And in spite of that, I did things, irrespective of what they said, what my coaches said, what my professor said in college, telling me you can't be a strength coach here, you can't do this. That fueled me for years and years and years. And, I don't necessarily think that it's a metric for like happiness or peace, but I do think that grit is a little bit more internal. I don't know if the kid that has never gone through anything is entitled is going to build mental toughness by doing repeat 15-second sprints. He's probably going to quit because he was never going to be able to do that. You know what I mean? Like he never had grit to begin with. The kids with more grit are going to do better in that. They're not going to get grittier because of it. They're not going to get tougher because of it. I think football in itself is a tough sport. It's going to automatically, filter out those kids. So if you like to hit someone, you're going to like to hit someone the whole time. If you're a hard worker, you were a hard worker before you started playing basketball.
And if you think about it, in basketball, the grit part of the sport. When I think of grit in basketball, I think it's like the fourth quarter and you have to play defense and it's really hard. Like like your legs are burning, like your lungs hurt from how hard you're breathing and stuff, but you decide to still play
It's like a
defense,
will to
but
win.
that's still trained better by just playing basketball.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah. I mean, there are like, I do think there is probably some like data on distance runners being grittier and like it improving grit. But like, if you think about distance runners, is it the chicken or the egg? Did that happen because they were 115 pounds in 10th grade and they couldn't succeed in other sports that were popular in America? And so they picked distance running and they excelled at it, not just because they're, gritty in a sense and they worked really hard and they learned how to work hard, but it's because they had to overcome a lot of obstacles to be successful in that sport. They had to overcome a lot of obstacles, mentally or psychologically in sport to be successful, or learn how to overcome obstacles. So it's like, is it because they learned how to overcome obstacles in life that they're good at distance running and they applied it to distance running? Or did they learn how to overcome obstacles in life because distance running was hard? I don't necessarily know the answer to that question. It would be an interesting one to look at, but I do wonder which, like what it actually is. Cause I don't think my grit stems from running 400-meter dashes. I do think that being more comfortable with discomfort comes from getting uncomfortable in those settings to an extent, but to the extent I took it to where even Tom Barnes takes it to, like Tom throws up every deadlift session. There's something in his brain that's a little sideways, like to push yourself to that point, same thing with the 400. I don't know. But I think if we're bringing it back to kind of like the sports coach thing, it's tough because we don't have the luxury of going and coaching 15 volleyball teams, you know what I mean? And being like a sports coach for 15 volleyball teams. And we do service like a lot of different athletes. So I think it's not realistic. It's not a realistic outcome because people are limited by time. But I think the best sports coaches in their respective trade and are like track coaches or volleyball coaches that were strength and conditioning coaches like Rich. Like Rich will be a very good volleyball coach because he was a volleyball player that understands physical prep. He's a volleyball coach that understands physical prep. He's obsessed with both of those. I was a track coach, that understands physical prep. And you're a dunker that taught me everything about dunking. So I can coach the sport and I can take guys through sessions and teach guys how to do dunks, and I can also do the physical prep. And
in a way, that's me as well.
Yeah, for
like,
sure.
I think the reason I got to where I'm at is because I am a dunker, came from a sports background, but I was always obsessed with S&C and like I combined the two. Because if you think about it, like there's a lot of the old school dunkers are like this, but it's very like it's the dunk every day, jump through pain, like that mentality. And it becomes a battle of the genetic outliers that can survive. But if you think about what we've done, like so many of the guys that jump high on our training are not genetic outliers.
They're not.
It's what happens when you actually just use science.
One that really comes to mind is Hoop and Nate. Like Hoop and Nate is probably our longest. He's probably our greatest longitudinal study outside of Dom, right? And Dom and Nate also they didn't break the rules. We would tell them the same thing, like don't jump if you're hurt, like jump as much as you can, learn the skill of jump technique by jumping when you're at a young age, be really, really obsessed with it, love what you do. Then you get to a point where Donovan's another one. It's just kind of longitudinal at this point. Like they did that. And then you get to a point where, okay, now at some point you've got to turn a corner. You tried it. You tried dunking every day for a year and didn't lift at all and had really bad knee pain. It didn't get any better, right? At some point, you ask yourself the question of how do I get better? I need more horsepower. I need more displacement. I can't just keep functioning on a 4-cylinder. I need an 8-cylinder.
No replacement for displacement, baby.
That's right. Exactly. So you do eventually have to do that. But yeah, it's like we're kind of like in a unique blend where when you work with like coach athletes to dunk better, and maybe it's because they want to play basketball, maybe it's because they don't. We talked about that a few weeks ago when a hater was like, these guys just want to do it in game. No, we just like to dunk. We can do it in game if we want to, but that's not necessarily why we do it. We do it because we like it and it's fun. Just the same way the volleyball player spikes because they like it and it's fun. It's fun to spike a volleyball.
By the way, just so I don't forget, trying to be more consistent with these. If you are someone that likes jumping, go to thpstrength.com and sign up.
I did say that at the beginning, by the way.
Yeah. I'm trying to do a mid-roll. Mid-roll. It's like YouTube where you get like
mid-roll cut. We're kind of at the end. So yeah, that's pretty much my take on it. And I did agree with what he said. I can't remember what his Instagram was, but
so if you're a coach, you should be watching our stuff.
Yeah, actually. I'm sure there's a lot of
coaches. If you're an athlete, send this podcast to your coaches so they can learn.
And they'll get pissed off at you.
No, some of our most successful team sport athletes are the ones where their coach worked with us. Like that track and field athlete, the female athlete that you coach, and then her coach.
Oh, yeah. I won't disclose names, but yeah. She ended up cool story. I don't know if I shared this. She ended up doing a load management protocol. I got on a phone call. It was a pretty prolific program, track and field program. And, you know, she was like humble enough to hear me out and took a lot of the recommendations that I took, you know, that I gave to heart, worked with the athlete and was willing to communicate with the athlete. And we had that good kind of trio. I guess in this case, I was like the therapist. But I understood, like, I know what she's trying to do because I'm also a track coach. So I was like, look, I understand what you're saying. I agree. I wish you could do that too. Here's the downsides. You know, you can make whatever choice you want. I'm just going to tell you the outcomes of each. And she ended up PRing at she ended up PRing at conference, a major conference, one of the biggest conferences in track and field, and qualifying for nationals and scoring points for her team, which is a huge deal in track. You guys might not know that, but that's a huge deal. So yeah, if your sports coach listens to this, or if they don't, you should send it to them, because I do think that we put a lot of good content out there that applies to a lot of people. I don't have anything else. Do you have anything else?
Goodbye.
We'll see you next time, kids.
Goodbye. I almost did it, Elon Musk.